I just wanted to quickly talk about what we did our first meeting last Thursday. We had a great introduction from Fire Safe Camp Meeker members. We'll be hearing from them again shortly about the inception of the project and what it means to them. We had a presentation on what is a Community Wildfire Protection Plan, another presentation on home defensible space, what it is, why we need it, and how to create it. And then the last presentation was all on vegetation management in an urban redwood forest for reduced wildfire risk. So if you missed that meeting, you can view the presentation files where Katy's cursor is. You can also watch the recording of the meeting. It's in 2 parts on YouTube, and the links are there. And we'll make this available to you all after the call. We also wanted to encourage everyone to get in touch with your neighbors, share news about this meeting process, the planning process, and to fill out a survey, letting us know how you felt it went. So we will make all of those links available to you later on. And so looking ahead, we are today at meeting 2, which is the risk assessment meeting. And then next week, June 25th, we'll have a meeting focused on projects. So we'll be discussing project ideas that protect lives, property, and the environment. So I hope you'll stay with us and keep on. So now I'd love to turn it over to Fire Safe Camp Meeker to say a few words.
Great. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited to see so many faces because we haven't seen anybody in so long, forever. Some of you are joining us again, and some of you weren't here last week. So it's great to see those of you who are returning and those of you who are new. We are embarking on this process, and it takes the entire community to, help to make us fire safe. So thank you, and please think about how you can participate in not just your own fire safe stuff at your house, but part of the whole community piece. So I'm going to introduce Dewey, who was not with us last week, but is a member of our Fire Safe steering committee. So the steering committee right now consists of Amy Limmer, Sheila Denton, Dewey, who is a representative from St. Dorothy's Rest, and myself. So we'd love to see you with us doing this and more going forward. So Dewey.
Thanks, Fawn. Great to be here. I'm, as I said, representing St. Dorothy's. We have Sarah Gunter is also on this call. Katy couldn't be here tonight, and so I'm filling in on the board of directors at St. Dorothy's. I have to confess, I do live on the, I do live in Grayton. I know it's not far, it's far away, but behind me is the reason why I'm so engaged in this Fire Safe Camp Meeker, and it's because I'm sitting in, of course, the virtual image of Lydia House, which is on the St. Dorothy's campus. I hope a lot of you have been there. But behind it, out this beautiful window, is where the fire is going to come from, probably. And you just see all that brown, and you think when that fire comes through, it's going to come down that hill and then up, down, over Dutch Bill and to us. And so I just think this gathering is so incredibly important, and I really hope that this group can put it together. We're going to make a great plan, and we're going to be a great success in figuring out ways to make Camp Meeker and the St. Dorothy's Forest fire safe.
Great, thanks so much, Dewey. Anyone else from Fire Safe Camp Meeker want to chime in before we move on?
I'm Sheila Denton. I've lived here with my husband and my son for about 27 years, well, 30 years. And I was formerly the executive director at Westminster Woods, just up the street. Now I'm retired. I am very happy to be involved in this project. Since last week, we've taken out maybe a dozen bay trees, and I'm clearing all around. I'm motivated. Let's do this.
Hi Sheila, my name is Corey. I'm actually a naturalist at Westminster Woods, and that's why I'm here today. So
Right
representing.
on. Right on.
Nice to meet you.
Amy, you want to say hi?
Yeah, this is Amy, and I live at 75 Railroad, kind of sandwiched between California and Railroad, kind of right in the middle of Camp Meeker and the bowl. And I've lived here since 1996, and I've had family in Camp Meeker since the late 80s. And so I care a lot about this forest and about this home. It's my family home. And of course, I love my neighbors, and I want to be part of stewarding this forest and keeping it healthy so that it can be a good home for all of us. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Well, great. Just before we dive into the risk assessment, we're going to do a little both practice and get to know each other. I'm just going to ask everyone to write your name and your street in the chat box. And if you're having any problems, feel free to say so. But you should, again, at the bottom, there's a little chat icon and word. If you click on that, it should pull up the chat next to you. And I see a lot of folks doing that, which is great. Okay, good. So you can just take
hello there, everybody. This is Tom Gogol. I'm kind of on the call on the telephone.
Hi, Tom. Oh, great.
I'm
well,
here
thanks
from
for speaking up.
Congressman Huffman's office. I was at the last meeting on the phone also. I'm sorry, my internet is so sketchy that I have to do this on the phone, but just here to listen on behalf of the Congressman, reporting back to him on what you guys are up to. So thanks for letting me be here.
Excellent. Thanks so much for being here. And I think most of us on this call are familiar with sketchy internet. So glad to have you vocally anyway. And yes, feel free, since you don't have the ability to raise your hand or add into the chat, feel free to chime in anytime. But we're getting lots of good introductions here from people, and I'm seeing hopefully some of you are meeting new neighbors through this. Adriana, before we dive into, was there anyone else you wanted to call in?
Thanks, Katie. Yes, we absolutely couldn't do this process without it being collaborative with our agency, folks in the fire and emergency services world. So I wanted to give a shout out in a moment to recognize that we have a few representatives in the room. I see we have Shepley from Gold Ridge Fire is with us. Hi, Shepley.
Hello.
Hey. I believe I also saw we have Sam Lazarich from CAL FIRE. Hi, Sam.
Hello, how's it going?
Hey, doing great. And I think we also have Richard Diaz from Department of Emergency Services at the county. Hi, Richard. His connection might be a little fuzzy too, but yeah, I'm just so glad that you all are here for this conversation about the risk assessment. We're going to be leaning on you for your expertise and to enlighten us about the conditions in Camp Meeker. So great that you're here.
Great, thanks, Adriana. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Caerleon Safford from Fire Safe Sonoma, who's going to lead us through the risk assessment process. And again, just to help us orient into this, there are some of these questions that are, very obvious, have very obvious answers. There's some that we really are hoping to get the community input on, and some that the experts in the room will be able to weigh in on. So for each of the questions we're running through, we're either going to be proposing an answer, asking, flagging that future research is needed in order to answer it, or asking experts in the room. And if at any point, you see something that's not sitting right with you, or you have a different opinion, please say so. Part of this is, to get us all thinking about what the full set of risks are, but also tapping the incredible local knowledge in the room. So please feel free to do that. And again, raise your hand on camera, or feel free to put in the chat. Hopefully we can get everyone's comments in. So Caerleon, you want to take it away?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it, especially Chief Schroth-Cary and Lazarich. It's great to have you here. I really wanted to have your input and thoughts on some of these questions. Some of these are going to seem odd. We have made a first pass through this thing and made some assessments of what we thought those answers might be, but I am fully expecting and hoping to get a lot of comment from all of you community members and fire and emergency managers and fire departments' opinions on this. So first, really quick background, what's a CWPP? The intention is to bring together all stakeholders in the WUI, which means wildland urban interface, to collaboratively identify community assets and risks to the community. In other words, what do you want to save and what's likely to harm those priorities, assets, and prioritize strategies to reduce risk, and generally to increase community-wide understanding of the need for action and get people inspired to move forward. A CWPP is not a regulatory or a binding document. It is just a list of assets, risks, and priorities that can be used to help us better prioritize projects in the future and gives us a better chance at getting grants in the future. The Camp Meeker CWPP will become an appendix to the larger Sonoma County Community Wildfire Protection Plan, which is in the very early stages of a revision currently. So this is a great time. There are only 3 requirements for a CWPP. It needs to be collaboratively developed with input from community members, local agencies, federals if they're involved. Everybody has to have a say. It has to identify areas for hazardous fuels reduction, so a prioritized list of projects that will help treat risk, and recommend strategies that will reduce the ignitability of structures. So tonight, we're gonna get this done, and because you're all here, we're gonna get that done too. So yay. Okay, so what we're using for this project is a template that Fire Safe Sonoma, I worked with University of Nevada, Reno Living with Fire program, and they had originally developed this template, and they gave us permission to take it and make it so that it was relevant for California. And we've been using it for a while. We've got a couple of CWPPs that have come out of doing this. And it's a work in progress as we go, but it's working good. So our goals are to fill out the risk assessment portion of the plan, which is, oops, wrong button, which is this one here. And we'll be going through that step by step. So we want to share what we've done so far, discuss what we need to discuss, and then we'll move on from there. The things we'll be looking at are road infrastructure. Can residents get out and firefighters get in? I'm guessing we all have opinions about that already. Construction materials. What are the buildings like in the area? Are they designed to or modified to resist ember ignition? What's the defensible space like? What are the available local fire suppression resources? What are the fire departments that are within quick access, and what are their capabilities? And how do local fuel conditions outside of the immediate community impact how fire is going to burn? Here we go. I'm just going to jump right in the interest of time. So I have to do a quick share switch here. So bear with me for 1 second, because we are now moving into the actual risk assessment document. And here it is, hopefully.
Great, and while that's just starting up, Caerleon, I just wanted to note that Richard Diaz has joined the call. Richard, I want to welcome you from the Office of Emergency Services at the county. Thanks for being on.
I don't think we are seeing the right document here. We are not. Hold on. You know, technology, we're all learning so much about this whole meeting in the cloud deal.
Well, while you're getting the risk assessment up again, I just want to reiterate, again, some of this is filled out. We're hoping to get everybody's input. If something's filled out that doesn't look right to you, please speak up. But again, we're really hoping to hear from you all in the community about some of the risks that you perceive, and make sure we capture those in this plan.
What are you doing, Kelly?
Okay, now we got it.
All right.
All right, so this will be available and you can read all of this considerable blah, blah, blah at will. So I'm just going to jump right in. And the first thing that we're going to be talking about is access. That's the roads in, the roads out. I think this is, I would be right in assuming that most of you are very worried about this issue in Camp Meeker, and rightfully so. The first thing we'll be looking at are the primary roads in and out. Now, when I think about Camp Meeker, I think you only have one primary road, and that primary road is Bohemian Highway. So I have said, or we in conjunction have said, that we have one road or loop road. So you have one road, but you have exit possible in two directions. So that's where our risk rating number 3 comes from that. At the narrowest point, I am not sure of the answer of this question, and this is one of the places where we might ask for community volunteers to go out and take a look at this road. Are there, in fact, places where Bohemian Highway between, let's say, Camp Meeker and Occidental and Camp Meeker and Monterey, just to start, are there places where that road is less than 20 feet across? I don't think so. But that's a question that we might ask for some of you to go out and assess on the ground. Do either of you chiefs have any input on this? Okay. Road grades. I think that there are places more than 5%. Now, one of the things that we'll really be using as a tool as we move forward with this is Geographic Information System data, or GIS data. And that will tell us for sure if we have grades of more than 5% on this road. I think that there are. 5% isn't that heavy a grade. So I just pegged that as a number 3 risk. The secondary roads are a little terrifying in Camp Meeker. I think everybody who lives that would agree. Most of them, I think, are probably, if the whole road isn't less than 20 feet, they certainly have pieces that are. Now, when we're looking at assigning risk on this template, we really want to look at it as if we have one risk factor that's higher, that's going to impact the entire community. So I will tend to take a higher risk. So if there were 5 roads that were more than 20 feet and 10 roads that were less than 20 feet, I would still peg less than 20. So we're grabbing less than 20 on that. Secondary road terminus, and this I am making a guess at, so this is a place where we're really going to want community input. I'm assuming that you have dead-end roads that are greater than 200 feet. Would anybody disagree with that? And you can either chime in with your voice, or you can put a note in chat. Either would be fine.
Yeah, and this chat will be saved, so if you have any particular areas you want to flag, go ahead and put them there. And again, I'm tracking if anyone's raising their hand. We'll call on you as well.
So I guess we can all agree, dead-end roads greater than 200.
On Kim to say a quick something. And Kim, you're on mute.
Just wanted some clarification about that. Is this basically making the statement that all of the roads in Camp Meeker are dead end?
Negative.
Okay.
This is just saying that this is a condition which exists in your community.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thanks for asking.
Can you help just backing up a second to understand the numbers, the 135, and that it seems like that's like adding up to something. What is the what does that add up to, or how does that affect us? Does that make sense?
I'm just gonna hold on to your hat. These numbers all add up and start to show up over here in these ratings. And the lower the number, the lower the risk, the higher number, the higher the risk. So that's how that works. And you'll understand that better when we get to the end of the day. So chime back in if you have a further question about that. So I think we have road grades more than 5%. Now, I'm guessing this is correct. Are most of your secondary roads paved? Yes? I'm not hearing any objections, so I'm assuming that that is
Sheila,
true.
Sheila, it looked like you were trying to say something.
I was just, most of them are. I would say most of them are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So accessibility. Fire trucks are big, difficult to maneuver. Can a large two-wheel drive truck drive up the road? Can two trucks pass side by side? Are there sufficient turnouts? I think that we would all agree that we have problems with narrow road surface and or roadside vegetation and limited turnarounds. So that's a high risk there for fire department access and egress for residents. Now this, I really don't know if are there bridges in Camp Meeker. Let's just start with the community, where the community lives in the town. I'm assuming there are a few, but I don't really know.
Yeah, there's some nodding heads. So maybe if folks want to either just speak the bridge that you know, or mark it on the chat. I see one person's written main bridge on Market Street, on the main road in.
Right, and that is a rated bridge, I would assume.
Going to the tower.
Great. So again, post your thoughts in chat. I'm going to leave that. There are a few unrated bridges. We can change that if we really find there aren't any. Wood bridges, this really became an issue. This I added after the Tubbs fire to the assessment. I hadn't really thought of it before, but the wooden bridges were such an issue during the Tubbs and the Sonoma conflict because bridges were burning up and closing access to entire communities. I doubt you have many, so I would say you're probably going to end up possibly up here. But again, we're going to ask for the community to drive around and field test these contentions. Gates was another one that I'm not sure about. Within Camp Meeker, within the community area, I doubt there are lock gates that will impede emergency access, but there well could be some outside of the community that would come into play. Does anybody have any input on that? Either of you chiefs, have you any background on this to answer this question in your pre-attack maps? Or?
Yeah, there are some gates like at the top of St. Dorothy's to make access up to the pond, that sort of thing, but not a ton, relatively speaking, to other places that I've experienced.
In Caerleon, there's a question, do the fire roads and water roads count?
For gates or for
gates? Yeah, like the fire road that runs behind Camp Meeker is gated and locked.
Right, and the question becomes, who has access to those gates, right? Are the keys available? Does CAL FIRE have the combinations? These are the questions that we really need to answer. And I would say that the answer to this question is perhaps a 3 instead of a 5. But that's a question that I would really like people to start really thinking about. There are pretty good solutions to these problems typically. Locked gates that nobody has the key to. Fire department folks have what we call universal keys, which are large bolt cutters. But if the community needs to access a road and can't get to it, that can be a problem. The whole idea of evacuating on what's called a fire road, I would caution everybody to really think hard about how we think about that. The last thing that we want is for community members trying to use roads that are actually more dangerous than other roads to get out of the community. So that will have to be part of a robust discussion that ensues about evacuation, that hopefully Department of Emergency Management and the Sheriff's Department, who are the folks who are most in charge of that, will be able to weigh in. So I'll pop that up to most gates are equipped for now, but we can go back and change that. Roadside vegetation, 10 feet from the easable road edge. I don't think anybody was going to disagree with me that we have tall grass, brush, and trees issues on the roads. Yeah.
I'm seeing a fair bit of laughter here.
Yeah. I know. This is what I miss about being in a room. When I ask this question, a lot of communities, the whole room bursts into laughter.
It's better than crying.
Yeah, a significant problem. And, you know, fortunately of many very difficult issues in Camp Meeker, that one in particular is really solvable by the community working together. So that's as problems go, that's a good one. Street signs, and this, I am assuming that we have almost all the street signs, certainly on the county roads. And if anybody disagrees with that, you're going to have to let me know. Address signs, I have no idea. I pegged you in the middle. Does anybody have any input on either of these two?
You're asking house numbers?
House numbers is the second category. So I said 75 to 89%. This is a grassroots problem then. This is one of the things that we're going to ask of the community is if you guys can help us really get good data to sort of back up what we're saying here. So if we could get 5 people to walk 5 streets and we come up with kind of an average, that'll really help us.
There's a comment in the chat saying I guess about 10% of the streets have them. So this may be a place where there's some divergence of opinion. It'd be great to hear from others what your sense is of the percentage of streets that have street signs. And this could be an area where we kind of get out on the street and get more research.
So when I say street sign, I'm talking about the street name. You're saying that 10% only have them?
Oh, really?
Well, several people are saying it's confusing, the street signs can be misleading, the roads are twisty, it's unclear.
Yeah, if you don't live here, it's really hard to tell. But if you live here, you know.
Yeah.
Sorta.
So that is something
that's true.
I've been 20 years walking all those roads, and I still am like, am I on Montgomery or am I,
Oh, what the name is? I have no idea, but but where it goes, sure.
Right, but what the name is when you call the fire department, who's going to, which side of Camp Meeker are they going to show up to based on that street name?
There's also a clarifying question that yes, the street signs should be non-combustible. So that's part of the criteria for address signs.
Yeah, street signs should be contrasting color, so dark background with white reflective 4-inch letters. And really that should apply to both street sign and address signs. And the really important thing about this too that I just have to throw in here, we're talking about wildland fire, but 80% of fire department calls, 80% are for medical emergencies. And medical emergencies require fast response. So if it's hard to find your house for any reason, either the street names or you don't have the address up, that can be a significant life safety issue. So this is a really important one to try to circle up. There are fire departments throughout the county who have road sign fundraisers that they do for the community. So community can go to the fire department, they'll make the sign, they make a little money. So that's something that we might think about doing in the future. So that might come out as a project through our risk assessment. So I'm gonna leave these, I'm gonna drop this down to the middle to a slightly higher risk. We may pop up one more, but I'm gonna leave that there for now, but this is an important, we gotta go back and really look at this. So now we're talking about the built environment, which is the reason that we're asking how many buildings were constructed or modified after 2007 is because that's when the California Building Code included a wildland urban interface building standards, which requires that if you're in an area at risk of wildfire, you need to build with these higher standards. So buildings that were built before that, we can assume don't have a lot of the things like wildfire resistant vents and stuff like that. I think this is a no-brainer. I would say that we are way less than 75% in that category. Roofing materials, this is a difficult one to ask. What we're looking for is a Class A roof. What I find when I'm talking to people about their roof is at least half of them, maybe more, don't really even know what the class of their roof is. So this can be a difficult question to answer. Certainly a roof that has, a hole in it with a tarp over it is not going to be Class A. Some of these you can make a pretty good assessment by just looking at how much moss it is, how degraded it looks. My guess is a lot of people probably have Class A roofs. If you use a contractor to replace a roof, he would have probably used a Class A roof. But again, this is a question that will need clarification from the community on.
Caerleon, there's one question coming in on chat is asking, don't we have a building moratorium? So I don't know if there's an answer to that, but it's a consideration.
I'm not talking about building now, I'm talking about what exists now. So siding. Siding is not the biggest factor in wildfire ignition of a home, primarily because a lot of the risk to the siding is controllable by defensible space. If you have a 0 to 5 foot non-combustible zone next to your vulnerable wooden siding, you've gone a long way to protect that siding from ignition. If you have a really nice defensible 30 feet, you've gone even farther. So siding isn't the terrifying thing that people think of it as if it's in reasonably good shape. My guess is that most homes in Camp Meeker have wooden siding. So I pinged you at the more than 70, less than 75%. There we go. That's what we want. So you're in the higher risk category down there. Unenclosed features are decks, wooden attaches such as fences. I would say that most houses in Camp Meeker have some kind of a feature on them, like a deck or a fence that attaches to them. So I'd say most of them do. And these are risks. And we can talk more about exactly what structure hardening is and how we can circle these up as we move forward to create projects based on these parameters. Utilities, this is a no-brainer. They're all above ground.
Adriana, there's a quick question here. Are redwood trees considered non-combustible if they're trimmed well, not touching the house, but 8 feet from the house?
No tree, no plant is non-combustible. That is, those two words don't go together. Any plant will burn. Redwoods will burn as well. They're not as combustible as some other trees are, but they certainly will burn. And if you walk around and take a look at the burn scars on the trees in Camp Meeker, you will absolutely see that. Reducing that risk by pruning them well, getting rid of the ladder fuels that are under them, and really cleaning the risky, brushy, dead and dying fuels that are on the surface below those trees, you're going to go a long way to reducing that risk. Okay, defensible space. Average lot size, I pinged at less than 1 acre, which I'm guessing is probably true in Camp Meeker proper. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan covers a large acre, which may skew the statistic a little because they're very large properties on the outside. So it's going to be hard to come up with an average for the area in general. But I think that if we're just looking at the habitated area of Camp Meeker, we're probably less than 1 acre or maybe in 1 to 10 acres, but I think it's this small. And the reason this is important is that one of the most important factors in ignition risk is house-to-house ignition. And when you have houses that are very close to each other on small lots, we're not just talking about the forest and the redwood trees being a risk. Really, the biggest risk in Camp Meeker is probably the built environment. So this is something that needs to be considered in our overall risk. Defensible space, I pegged you at less than 30% adequate. Chief Lazarich, I know that CAL FIRE did defensible space inspections in Camp Meeker a year or two ago. Do you have any sense of the percentage of pass-fail in those inspections? I guess not. So let's stick this with less than 30% adequate and go on. From the community generally, do you feel like most people can do more on their defensible space? I'm seeing a nod from Sheila.
There are many nodding heads in the
okay
in the room.
We could do.
So let's stay on. Now this is a place where I really need some help from both the water district and the local fire folks because I'm kind of making this up. Camp Meeker is absolutely blessed that you do have a hydrant system installed in the community. That was a wonderful thing that happened for your community. This is one of the first times I've been able to put a dot in this box.
Wow.
So, but I don't know how close your hydrants are, how they're spotted along the roads. I need some backup information on this to get that. So I'm hoping that either Chief Baker or someone from the Water District or the Park and Rec can sort of help fine up this, this assessment. If either of the fire chiefs have anything to say about this, you could jump in. Nobody's jumping in. So let's just know that this one we might have to come back to, but I'm guessing this is probably right. Now, fire department protection within 15 minutes. I think that a fire truck can get from Acreage Lane, which is where the CAL FIRE station is, to Camp Meeker within 15 minutes. I'm guessing that in a normal day.
Yeah, we'll confirm that.
Okay. So really, I think that rather than pegging you as an all-volunteer department, I'm going to move this dot up to combination career and volunteer because CAL FIRE is a career department. They're only around from that station during wildland season, but this is a wildland protection plan, wildfire protection plan. So I'll move you up and drop your risk rating down. We also have mutual aid from Occidental and Monterey quickly available in addition to Camp Meeker. So would you chiefs agree that I can move this risk from 7 to 3?
If you're asking Sam, yes.
Thank you, Sam.
And Shepley's on and would agree with that statement in regards to the wildland issue.
Great, perfect. So fire behavior, this is one of the places where I'd really love to have the input from the chiefs. There's a lot of words here and I'm running short on time, so you can all shift back and look at this. We'll post this or email it around or do all kinds of things with it. Now, Adriana did a quick assessment of just an overall view of the fire hazard severity zones, FHSV, that CAL FIRE has, and what her assessment was that roughly 50% was in high. The community itself is mostly in moderate fire severity. Now, Chief Lazarich, I believe that we are in the process of updating the fire hazard severity zone mapping at CAL FIRE currently. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the case. They're updating that statewide and specifically in the locations over here. And that's a part of our VMP program as well. So I won't have those answers, but if you need them, I can go to that program and try to get an update on that.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we can GIS that up so we can take the polygon of the project area and we can come up with the exact percentage of one to the other. My concern in Camp Meeker is that where everybody lives is pretty much all in moderate, and the high is in the surrounding wildland areas. And those two definitely work on each other, but exactly how we're going to come up with an equitable number to rate this, I'm not sure. And the fire hazard severity zoning also being in flux makes it a little tough. But I'm guessing that we'll probably peg to the middle on this one, logically, because calling Camp Meeker moderate fire hazard severity zone, I'm thinking that might change in the next version. Also, just to back up a little bit, the countywide CWPP, which we're updating, is going to have a bunch of very sophisticated mapping and modeling countywide. So that might come into play here as well.